Record. So if you type in overleaf.com and press enter, you'll be brought to this page. If you do not have an Overleaf account, I highly encourage you to get one. I encourage you to use your your Toronto ID as your student here because it'll really help you in terms of everything's connected with that Toronto email. If you ever are working with uh, one of the professors on campus and they're wanting to add you to a project, they're probably going to add you using your UToronto ID. Um, then what you can do is you can link your UToronto ID with a Gmail ID or some other ID if you want to later. Um, Once you've made the account, if you come to this page, you don't log in here. You log in using this login button, which will bring you here, and you can put your um, email and password and log in. Now, once you log in, there'll be tons of different projects you're working on. Some you're shared with people, some you haven't. I've made one called Template. Now, if you go and you create a new project called a template, I call this template walkthrough, this will automatically pop up. So this is just the basic of basic documents, and you can start writing. There's it's an article template. The I'm not a huge fan of it because the margins are not the greatest, the layout's not the greatest, but you could start making a document in here and compile and download. Now, what I've done is I've made a template to kind of help you. And what you can do is you can download that template from the Quarkus page. If you drag and drop and paste it, you can upload that single file. Okay, so now it's uploaded here. Um, and I'm just going to take this file name and I'm going to change it. So my last name, I'm going to replace with Kielstra. My first name, I'm going to replace with Thomas. Assignment one. So now I've renamed this document. Now what I can do, if I'm here and I want to compile it, I'll press this recompile button. So now I have that template document compiled here. Okay. I'm going to pause the recording here so everyone can have an op. Now, when I first opened this here, it's kind of spread out here, but I really like making uh these aspects bigger. So I'll drag and drop and you can change the text size. So you might notice that your text size might not be as big as my text size, but if you go to settings, in the settings you can look at different aspects of the size of your text. That's in here. Um, if you have questions about the size of text and all that kind of stuff, you can also just look up online Overleaf leaf text size, text editor size, and that can help you change the size of that text. For me, because I uh, just like to have it a little bit bigger when I'm typing, I have little bit bigger text size than most. You can also turn it to dark mode if you'd like as well. But this document's meant to be kind of something that you work with and play with. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth between this editing side and the document that we make over here. So the first thing that I'm going to say is this docu-class style is just what style? Is it an exam? Is it an article? Is it a book? That's what that's about. The page style is another stylistic thing. And then there's all these packages to use. AsMath uses a lot of your math symbols. As symbol, there's some more symbols you use. Graphic X, math dots, char, fancy verb, comment. They're packages that help you build things. And this Tix is really useful for building graphs and pictures, file content. They're packages that help you build a document. Um, and we've got a bunch of packages here. So instead of you having to figure out what packages you need to include, I included a lot of the general packages that you would use. Okay. So everything up to line 31 here that says begin document, all of that is just the layout and everything needed to make this thing work. You can look up what these packages are to help understand why it works and why I did what I did and included what I included. But really, it's just making this document work. Okay. Then this plot set PDF here. This is a style guide for this picture we have down here. So what I did is I made a style. If you ever want to input a graph, I made a plot PDF style to help you with putting in a graph in case down the road you want to put in graphs. This is a plot style. It's not the be all and end all, but it gives you a little bit of starting on how to create a plot. Okay. So the one thing to note about the assignment is that we're not asking you or wanting you to use LaTeX for every question, just one question. So we want handwritten for every question except for one question, which we want you to type up. Okay. Now, once we've done this layout and setup, everything after this is typing. So if we look here, this begins center. What that does is it centers the text. Now, large BF, what that means is between these two brackets, the text is going to be large and bold fonted. So linear algebra 1 for mathematical sciences. If I change this to linear algebra 1 for Tom's class and I recompile it, you can see that it's changed to for Tom's class. Okay, so we could change this to assignment 1, question 8. Recompile. And now you can see it's changed to assignment 1, question 8. And now it has this, underneath it, it has fill in name here. So I'm going to go and Thomas Kielstra, fill in my name. Then it has tutorial number. Now this backslash number means that the backslash is supposed to be there. But if we look up here, it's just the number sign. So if I put in my tutorial number, let's say 00006. That isn't a tutorial number for this class, but again, this is just a template. And you'll see if I recompile, all of a sudden my tutorial number is here. And then my student number, 1001, I'm just putting in a random number here. And then email, thomas.kielstra at mail.u or at utoronto.ca. Okay. And if we recompile, we can see we've got this nice name, tutorial number, student number. Now, if I were to get rid of this $sign and recompile, something weird happens. You have this number sign and this error comes up and it doesn't show up here. What this is saying is that the number sign is used for something. Uh, it's used for something in the coding. So by putting the backslash, it's saying, no, I just want the number sign. Now, you'll notice I keep going over here and pressing recompile. What it's doing is it's taking all the text that's over here and running the program called LaTeX and producing this document. So as I change the text over here, this document on the right changes. Okay. And this document that I've made, if we read the first paragraph, let's see what it says. This document is to help you to learn LaTeX. To write text, we simply write what we would like to say. A single new line will not create a new line. Create a new paragraph. Wait, let's see what's happening here. So this document will help you learn how to use LaTeX. Okay. And if we see that, okay, that's the same that's here. But I just changed LATAX to be uppercase letters. And if I recompile it, you'll notice the letters changed. Okay. And it says a single new line will not create a new paragraph. Wait, this was 61, this was 62, which means that's an enter key. An enter key, if I just have one enter, it doesn't create a new paragraph. It continues in the same paragraph. Okay? We must use two new lines to create a new paragraph. So if you see here, I have two new lines, not one new line. So I have that 64 and then 65. Okay. Now you'll notice I have this backslash text BF. What that means, which I've commented here, is that if I do text BF and put stuff inside of it, whatever's inside will be bold fonted. Similar here, whatever inside will be italicized. Okay. So this document is meant to be something that you can work through to kind of figure out how to write things in this LaTeX environment. What'll happen is you'll have this slow, steep learning curve of, okay, I just need to make something that works. But then once you have something that works, it shouldn't be too bad to edit. What I would encourage is take this template, and if you, what you can do is you can create a new folder, name, and you can call it template, or you could call this assignment one. And if you click here, just into your text editor on the left, press Control A or Command A or whatever the button for Mac is, you can copy it and then go to this assignment one and paste it and recompile it. And then what you have is you have, if I rename this template, you can always have this template here to remind yourself how to make things. And then here, what you can do is you can take this document and you can take everything between the begin document and end document and remove it. And now we start making our solution. So so if I recompile this, now what I have is I have a blank document with my name and student number where I can start typing up my solution. Okay. But I still have this template, which will help me know how to do things when I'm trying to figure out how to do one thing or another. You might be asking yourself, why on earth do I care about this document? Now, there's a couple, or LaTeX. Well, there's a couple things. One, you might be going, well, this here looks like a lot of code, and you're scrolling down. How do you know where you're writing? Well, what you can do is on this PDF here on the right side, I can double click something. I just double clicked here, and it brought me exactly to where that was. Okay, so if I double click down here, it brings me to that paragraph. So even though there's lots of code, I can use the compiled document to quickly move around what I'm working. Okay. And then over here, you might be saying, you know what? I really don't like this recompile button. Well, instead of pressing recompile, you can just control enter. So as you're typing, if you press control enter or command enter if you're on a Mac, I believe it's command enter if you're on a Mac. You can just keep typing and then recompile. Type, recompile. Okay. Now, to write an equation, there are three things we could use. And this is the big power of LaTeX, is we can write math equations, matrices, and things like that very effectively. And so much so that it's the standard publication software used for the hard sciences. Almost every paper, textbook, whatever you see published was published and typeset using a LaTeX document. Okay. So we have to write an equation, there are three things we could use. So here we could using dollar signs. And you can see that I've used dollar signs to typeset my equation. Okay. The next thing we could use is the equation environment. Okay. And and now if we use the equation environment, um, if I use it just as equation, it will give a number to it. So you'll look here under number 2, it gave a number to that equation. So if I want to label equations, I would give it an equation. Now, when using this equation environment, you should give, if you put a number on it, you should label it. Okay. Now you can label it using whatever you want. You can use happy, you can use sad, you can give any label you want. But labeling it lets you reference it later. Now, what am I doing here? I am adding comments. Okay. This percent symbol is something called a comment. Okay? It allows me to explain something or provide explanation without it showing up in the document. So anything on that line that shows up after that dollar sign will not show up in your document. It's purely for you to read. Okay? Finally, if you want to use the equation environment, but you don't want a number to show up, you put a little star symbol at the end. So this is an equation without um, label. Okay. Now that we have our equations, we can construct tables. When constructing tables, there are a few things we have. Okay. Here, we use L for left justified, R for right, and C for center. So here it would be 2 columns centered. Now you might be looking at this and going, well, that looks like an L. It's not quite an L. We use, and on most keyboards, it's right above the enter button. So you press shift, the button right above the enter, you get this vertical line. That is to create vertical lines in our table. Now, if I remove this first line, for example, and I recompile it, you'll notice in my table, the first line disappears. If I put it back and I remove the middle line, you'll notice that the middle line disappears. Okay. This H line is used to create horizontal lines. Now, we can reference our labeled questions from before using the ref command. So if we look here, we can reference labeled using the ref command. For example, our equation from before was, and now this ref command is \ref, open curly bracket, you put the name that you used for your label, which if we look above, the name we used was happy, and then end square bracket. But if I remove these round brackets and recompile, It simply puts the number. You can see here, it's only the number that appears. Whereas if I want the brackets around the number, I have to put brackets around the ref command. Now, up to this point, we have talked about a single equations in a line, but sometimes in math, we have fx equals blank equals blank equals blank equals blank, and we have new lines that keep happening, okay? To create that, we use the align environment, okay? Now, if I want the align to be labeled, I'll get rid of this star, but if I don't want to label it, I will use this star, okay? So here, if we look over here, we can see there's this nice, everything's straight on top of each other and the equal sign are all lined up. The way we line up an align environment is with this dollar sign here, okay? So that dollar sign tells us how to align things. And you can see if I look at it right here, after this first line here, there's a new row to sine x plus e to the x. But after the next line, there isn't a new row. Okay. And it doesn't jump to a new line. It jumps to the end here. What's going on here? Well, in the align environment, we can use multiple ampersands to separate out and align it in different columns. But to signify, hey, I want a new row, we need to use this double backslash. So if I use that, you'll see all of a sudden everything lines up nicely. Now, if I want to put text in there that isn't math, I use this text up command, or I could simply use the text command. And it writes out this nice text. If I get rid of this text command, let's see what happens. You'll see everything just goes on diagonal, all compressed here. So if I want to write text in this align environment, I need to wrap it in this text command. So it knows to compile it as if it was text. Okay. And then the next line, what I did is I created a text here, and I showed that if I want to write out text and it needs to align, I need to end my text, put an ampersand in, and continued my text. Okay. I want to mention about our specific question. So I included this, how to type the set that we're looking at. At Math BB is used to bold font. So that R, that funky R with the bold fonting with a plus, that's made using the Math BB environment. Now, if I put this plus inside instead of outside, when I recompile it, it showed up the same. But let's see what happens if I put a 3 inside and recompile it. Now that 3 looks kind of funky. That's because bold font 3 is a specific command for a specific symbol. So we want to put our exponents outside. That way we don't get these funky symbols. If I put a 3, it looks like this. Now, if I go, let's say I wanted to do to the exponent 34. If I did to the exponent 34, notice the 3 is the exponent and the 4 is not in the exponent. What this means is that only the first thing in the exponent will be written in the exponent. So if I put squirrely brackets around it, that means the 34 goes in the exponent. So everything in those squirrely brackets are exponents. Now, what happens if I want a curly bracket? Just like our dollar sign, we need to put this backslash before the curly bracket. we want the curly bracket to show up. Okay? And we use this vert command to make a vertical line. Okay? And finally, I included an example of a matrix. In a matrix, we use a left square bracket, a right square bracket, and then inside we use this array environment. The commands here for right and left are very similar to what you would see in the table environment as well.